Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am here with week 15 update on my 100 book challenge. Now, this is a challenge created by the evil mastermind Criminali, where I have to read 100 books that I already own before I can buy another book. There are a few exceptions to this. My books for the Book2 Prize nomination were eligible, book group books are eligible, and buddy reads are eligible. Now I'm going to have a different sort of challenge today because I live in a 55 plus community and we have a lodge, and they have invited a local writer of at least some mystery novels to come speak about a book that he wrote today called The Goat Castle Murders, and the author is Michael Llewellyn, and it is a true story about a murder in New Orleans that was never solved in the 30s. And this is a novel attempting to solve those murders. I hope this is actually part of a book group in this community so I can legitimately purchase this book. If it is not part of a book group, I might have a little more of a challenge trying to figure out a way to squeeze this thing in. Maybe I can consider it a ticket. Or I can buy the Kindle edition, which is $2.99, and I have enough credit from an old birthday gift card that I can buy it. However, if Mouse comes in before then, I am going to be a little bit short, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So we will have to see. Now, this is a pretty big week in my challenge because I have read 90 books out of 100. That means only 10 more books to go. That's pretty exciting. I'm going to have to do some countdown videos of each book that I read from here until 100. But what have I read this week? I started off for March Mystery Madness, reading A Study in Scarlet by Arthur Conan Doyle. This is the first novel, the first story in the Sherlock Holmes series. I have read this before, but I tend to read this once every 5-10 years, something like that. It is just a really good mystery novel. It's a great introduction to Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. It even has this interesting interlude about Mormons in the United States stuck right in the middle of the book. Technically speaking, I think it's inexpertly done because it's too long and it's just in the middle and it breaks up the mystery, but it was fascinating in its own right. Of course, this counts as one of the great all-time murder mysteries ever written. And I'm going to break out the order that I read things just a little bit because it'll make sense in a minute. I also read The Eye by Vladimir Nabokov. This is a novel that he wrote when he was a Russian immigrant living in Berlin. And it is a story of a Russian immigrant in Berlin who's rather broke, and he winds up teaching school children as a part-time gig. And the only problem is he's introduced to a married lady in this household. And let's just say that an affair ensues. An affair that he's not particularly interested in, other than he's interested in just having an affair. And the lady's always talking about her jealous husband who's out of the country for a while. And lo and behold, one day when this guy is at home, he gets a phone call from a strange man asking if he's home. And he goes, yes. He goes, wait there, I'll be there in a minute. Now, he does not know who this man is. Now, of course, you're going to know right away, it's the husband of the woman he's having an affair with. And this husband totally humiliates this man. And so the man says, the only thing I can do to redeem myself is commit suicide. And he takes out a gun, pulls it to his head, and pulls the trigger. He wakes up in a hospital. Only he really is dead, and he's a ghost. And it's just a very strange story of him wandering around as a ghost and interacting with people and them kind of ignoring him. It is not one of Nabokov's best books. I've read a few of his books in English, including Lolita. and a couple of his Russian books. I would rank this fairly low on the scale of the books that he wrote. It is not a bad book at all. It's 104 pages, and it's easy to read. It's entertaining, but it's not something I can go out and say, you have to read this book. After that, I listened to 3 audiobooks by Michael Moorcock. This is in his Elric saga. Last week, I read the first book, which was Elric of Melniboné, and I had read that before in high school. Now, the second book in this quartet, it's an omnibus of his first 4 books in the Elric saga, is The Fortress of the Pearl. Now, this is a book that was written years after I was out of high school, so it's not one that I'd read before. And this is sort of an interlude of one of his dream adventures before the sailor on the seas of fate. And it has a very interesting twist at the end that I was not expecting. I would not call it one of my favorite Elric books. It's pretty good, though. And then the third Elric book I read was another one I read is The Sailor on the Seas of Fate. And again, this is very good Elric. This is where he's on a ship, and it's basically 3 novellas, and the ship goes to different dimensions where he has to defeat various and strange creatures. And if you're familiar with the Elric saga, this is just very standard Elric, high up there. The third book that I read in the Elric saga was The Weird of the White Wolf. And again, this is 3 short novellas that are somewhat connected. The first Elric one is, he's probably one of his more interesting novellas. And this is where he gets his name Woman Slayer. And you know he's called Woman Slayer because that's in the introduction of the first novel. And this tells you how he got that title. And I don't think I liked it as much as Sailor on the Seas of Fate or Elric of Melniboné. So if I had to rank these 4 books, the first would, and most enjoyably, would be Elric of Melniboné, then Sailor on the Seas of Fate, and then Weird of the White Wolf, and topping it off, The Fortress of the Pearl. So those are the 5 books that I completed this week to bring me up to 90. And it is very exciting to be at 90 books. The end is near of the 100 book challenge. But I have been reading a lot else besides those 5 books. If you know my channel, you know I am part of the 1001 book group run by Sandy at Miss Reads a Lot, and we are reading War and Peace. And this is from my March of the Mammoth, and we are attempting to read this entire book in March. I have a little bit of a tighter schedule because I'm going on vacation the end of the month, and I leave on the 27th, and I want to have it done by then. So I have to read it a little bit faster than everyone else, but I'm ahead of a schedule. I am on page 401, which is pretty good. I've been reading about 50 pages a day. I actually started 2 days early to get a head start on this book, and I am really enjoying War and Peace. This is the Briggs translation. It is a very modern translation. The most notable thing about this translation is that it does not have French. The original War and Peace, written in Russian, has been called a bilingual novel by some people because there is a lot of French dialogue in this book. And in this edition, they just tag it out saying, Pierre spoke in French. And whereas if you were reading in the original Russian or the Pierre and the P&V translation, you would have the French on the page and the English translation in the footnotes. I have that translation on Kindle, but I have not been reading it. A couple other people in the book group says it's a little annoying having to always hit for the footnote for the translation and takes you out of the reading a little bit. Now, of course, when Tolstoy wrote in French, he wrote for the aristocracy, and they were all bilingual, so it was totally fine for him to write this in Russian and French. But I love it. The characters are very well drawn. I don't like all of them. Pierre does some things that I just don't admire. I won't go too much into that because what he does that I really don't admire occurs a bit later in the book, and I think because I'm a bit ahead, I don't want to give any sort of spoilers. But if you're watching this, yeah, Pierre, he does something that I just don't find totally believable. Now, it's probably believable in Tolstoy's worldview, but I don't hold to Tolstoy's worldview, so that's why I find it a little bit distracting. But that's where I am. As of this morning, I was on page 104. I am ahead, and I'm doing well. And next week, I will be reading, of course, More War and Peace. I will be reading another Sherlock Holmes novel from March Mystery Madness, and that is The Hound of the Baskervilles. Another novel that I have already read, but that novel is probably even better than A Study in Scarlet. I'm also now listening to an audiobook. I have the paperback. This is Damien by Hermann Hesse. This is a nice short little novel. Hermann Hesse is a fascinating author. I think he's fallen a little bit out of favor. The generation right before me was totally in love with Hermann Hesse. His Siddhartha, Steppenwolf, those are the two novels I've read by him. And I started this morning, and so far so good. I want to see where he takes it. And after I finish Damien and Hounds of the Baskervilles, I'm going to have to find another little paperback to read to make sure that I keep up speed with my challenge and get it done by the end of this month. I'm not sure what book I will pick. Obviously something very short. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Goodbye.